for some reason someone has questions for me, you can either send me an email. I think the email was posted, or give me a phone call. So I manage the Home Performance with Energy Star program for Eversource and New Hampshire Saves. Through New Hampshire Saves, we have it for each of the electric utilities within the state of New Hampshire, as well as the natural gas utilities located primarily in the southern part of the state and on the seacoast. So I'm going to start with a short discussion on Weatherization Basics. Energy Efficiency 101. So I'm hoping at this point that's up and running.
Yep, you're all set.
Fantastic. So it says, basically, what does it mean when we say to weatherize your home? And basically what we're talking about is, at a high level, it is a home energy improvement project that's undertaken by yourself and energy professionals. And it's basically focused mostly on air sealing and insulation. Let's see if we can get that to move forward. Very good. So there's many reasons why people choose to weatherize their homes, and it's usually more than savings. Oftentimes it's comfort level. They're worried about drafts in the home, or they're worried about just tightening the home up for a number of reasons. But it's basically focused on saving energy, whether you're heating your home with fuel oil, propane, cordwood, wood pellets, or using electric heat. And also, weatherization can help increase the durability of your home over time. So in order to better improve your home, in order to tighten it up and make it more durable, weatherization projects can certainly help with that. There's can be issues with ice dams and the like that can actually have wear and tear not only on the roof of a home, but actually on your roof siding as well. So why do we weatherize homes? We've got a lot of good reasons here. And really the one that we often hear the most is because of increasing comfort. We've got increasing comfort in the home. Reducing energy use obviously is on the list. Increasing home health and safety. People are concerned about the air and quality of air in their home, making sure the heating systems are operating properly, pass HVAC testing, and are venting properly. Home durability, and also it is good for the environment. So again, we can really feel the difference in what's going on here. Reduced drafts, fewer cold spots in the home. Oftentimes we'll have people complaining that if they sit in a chair in a particular room, it seems cold, or if they're sitting somewhere in a home there's drafts. A more consistent heat in the home, upstairs and downstairs. We certainly know that warm air has a tendency to go higher, cold air has a tendency to go lower, and oftentimes the upstairs is a little bit warmer than the downstairs. And what we see when homes are well air sealed and well insulated, that it's a much more consistent heat in the home. And then also a noise factor as well, to a certain extent. This is an extreme photograph of a home experiencing ice dams. And this is something that you may have seen to a certain extent in homes in your area, or actually maybe in your home. We had friends of ours in Manchester, New Hampshire, were experiencing something like this about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, the year we had about 120 inches of snow. The ice was backing up under the roof and it was flooding. And we were able to get them enrolled in the program and have one of our energy contractors in Manchester work with them and help them resolve their problem. And they have not had any ice dam issues, significant ice dam issues, or leaking inside their house in the last 4 winters that they've gone through. So the program can provide benefits where it tightens your house, it makes it more energy efficient, and also eliminates issues such as this that we have here, increasing the durability of your home. So how buildings lose heat? Basically, we've got a couple of different ways. One is convection, or a stack effect, where air is coming into the house at a lower level, whether it's a crawl space or a basement, and then basically exiting through the attic, different ways in which you can go out in the attic. And then the other is conduction. Basically, heat is flowing through solids. So I'm going to go to the next screen right there. Just a little bit of building science. So based on that, conduction and convection, what we do is have air sealing priorities. So really the Home Performance with Energy Star programs and your energy auditor are going to focus on two things. First and foremost is air sealing, and then second is insulation. And then the priorities for attacking the air sealing are at first in the attic, and the primary reason there is we want to keep the warm air in the house. And you can see by taking a look at the attic, there's many, many different ways for that warm air basically to jump into the attic, and you end up losing some of your heated air into the attic, and oftentimes that will be an excessive amount in places, and then you'll end up with ice dams. But if you've paid to heat the conditioned space in your home, you want to make sure it stays within the conditioned space. The next is the basement. Basically, air is leaking into the house, the cold air is leaking in. In the summertime, it tends basically to stay there because of the way it works in the atmosphere. It doesn't tend to move too much. It doesn't tend to pull out like it does in the wintertime when things dry out. And then you have basically a much more heated living or conditioned airspace. So what happens is that you have cold air coming into the basement that basically is getting sucked up through the house, and then that's pushing the warm air out through the spaces in the attic. So if you can take care of the insulation or the air sealing, excuse me, in the attic, that'll help alleviate that problem. And then next, if you can do some air sealing in the basement as well to prevent that cold air from leaking in, particularly in the colder parts of the year, you'll help take care of that. So you've got attic, stop warm air from leaking out. Basement, stop the cold air from being sucked in. And then the last thing that we take advantage of is the center of the house. And oftentimes it's difficult to determine the amount of insulation in the walls. Most homes, the walls is fairly well insulated. Sometimes the insulation that's blown in tends to sink in times, and we can have our contractors go back in and fill those cavities or voids. But our energy contractors are using a thermal camera basically to assess the spots that are cold within the walls and get an idea where insulation is lacking. Sometimes there's air sealing opportunities. We can do door kits around doors, air sealing around windows that haven't been put in quite correctly to alleviate the air leakage there. So we've got more insulation, less conductive heat loss. So the gentleman on the left side is blowing in cellulose. The gentleman at the top on the right is doing some spray foam. Looks like he's doing it in a basement. You can kind of see the stone wall there. The young lady in the center has a Thermax board that she's putting up on a basement wall. That can also help the insulation as well. And then the last gentleman on the bottom right basically has removed one of the clapboards to the home, and then he is blowing in cellulose into the areas, the different bays, in order to fill that up basically to the top. So what we're trying to do is really have a hard pack cellulose blown into that area to provide the right amount of insulation. So your home needs both sweater for insulation and windbreaker for air sealing. So if you're outdoors, as Ted Stiles from Yankee Thermal would say, on a cold day and you have a sweater, you can feel quite comfortable. However, if the day is cold and windy, you're not going to be as comfortable in a sweater alone. But if you add a windbreaker to the top of that, which basically seals the wind out from going through the sweater, you'll be even more comfortable. So it sort of explains basically why we need both air sealing and insulation. I tell people if you have money only to do one thing in your home, I would definitely focus on the air sealing first and then do what you can do with insulation later. Because what the air sealing will do basically is prevent that warm air from pulling the cold air through your home. So air sealing is extremely important. So what about windows? Well, basically, replacing your windows isn't going to save you a lot on energy efficiency. The window companies have done a great job over the years selling their product, windows and doors, as addressing that. But if you take a look at a window, most of the windows that you have installed now probably in the R or resistance value to heat loss 2 to 3, maybe 4 range. Even if you put the best triple pane windows on your home, you can only take that to about an R6. So basically you double the resistance, but it's still only R6. And you compare that to the attic. Basically with blown-in cellulose, we can take an attic to an R50 insulation value. So windows are still going to be windows no matter what. There are times when windows need to be replaced because they're not functioning properly, or they may have fallen into disrepair. But as far as an energy efficient perspective, it really does not justify replacing windows. So weatherizing your home in New Hampshire.
Hey, Gordon.
Yes.
I just have one non-rebate related question. What
Perfect.
does conditioned space mean?
Basically, it is the space in your home that is heated. So if you were to go onto your town or city website and get the information about your home, which should be readily available, they will list the total square footage of your property, because oftentimes that's done for tax purposes. So you'll have your home. You might have a porch, or what we consider in New Hampshire is a breezeway. The home I grew up in had one of those. You may have a garage attached, and you may have a 3-season porch out in the back. So in all great likelihood, the garage is not heated. So that's an unconditioned space. The porch or the breezeway is an unconditioned space. And then the 3-season room that you have on the back of the house is also an unconditioned space. So when you're looking at qualifying for the program, you should be looking at the square footage in your home that you only heat.
Great, thank you.
You are welcome. Talk a little bit about our programs, and then we'll open it up for questions. A specific New Hampshire Saves Home Performance with Energy Star program. So basically we use fuel per square foot to qualify homes. It's a HHI 8, which doesn't sound, probably doesn't tell you too much, but basically it's a level of fuel use in a home based upon a federal standard that is deemed to be inefficient. So you can tell quite quickly when you go online and use the tool, the HHI tool, whether your home would qualify or not. If your home qualifies, we would enroll your home in our program, and there's a $100 energy audit fee that we pay to the energy contractor. The normal audit fee is in the $400 to $500 range. So this is a great discount in addition to that. And if you do any work in the program, you can use that $100 as a credit for any work in the program. So basically, the energy audit is free. You'll get a detailed home energy assessment report that you can review. It will go over where your home is strong, what your heating system is like from a safety perspective, as well as any recommended measures. And each of the recommended measures will have a cost, an applicable rebate amount, which is the amount the utility will pay directly to the contractor, and then energy savings. So you can really quickly see what the savings are, what the cost is to you, and make a decision on the payback going from there. So we've had a change in our program. It's actually been a lot of changes in our program, like a lot of other things in 2020. But as of the middle of March, I think it was the 19th of March, we basically had a moratorium on our program until about the middle of June. And the reason for that was primarily the COVID-19 virus and not wanting to take the risk of having contractors in people's homes, either at risk to the people in the homes or at risk to our contractors. So over the next couple of months, our company basically put forth a number of precautions to use for homeowners and energy auditors. And we have many PPE protocols that are being used today, not only from a perspective of the energy audit. We've got people going in with tie-back suits. wearing masks, some wearing gloves, as well as face shields, just to make sure that they're not either spreading a virus or coming in contact with a virus. So we're taking precautions in that way. And then very similar to that, taking a lot of precautions with the installation as well. So we've taken a really, really slow, methodical approach, just trying to be absolutely certain that we want to provide a value to the customers. And obviously we want to provide a living to the contractors, but we also want to make sure that everything is done safely in accordance with the current protocols. And we basically have had auditors out there evaluating the jobs to make sure that the protocols have been followed. And for the most part, we've actually been very, very pleased to the extent that they had been. In order to move forward, each contractor had to have 3 jobs fully quality assurance reviewed for these PPE protocols in order to move forward with any additional jobs. And then periodically we'll go out and QA jobs just to make sure that they are following up with that. The good news is that during this time, that for Eversource, you can see we covered 50% of the cost. And at that time, we were basically covering 100% of the air sealing, which still occurs. But from now until November 15th, 2020, for jobs that complete, we are covering 90% of the cost of insulation and health and safety measures. So that's a significant increase in a benefit. And we've increased what we consider to be the cap on an individual or residential property from $4,000 to $8,000. Now that same amount basically is in place for Unitil. It's in place for the New Hampshire Co-op, and Liberty Utilities has a $8,000 cap, but they had decided to keep it at 50% of the cost. And I think the primary reason for that was because of funding issues. And I think one of our members here is going to share a little bit, but they're basically up against a funding issue for the remainder of this year, even at 50% of the costs. So needless to say, it has got our contractors back to work, and it has got a lot of homeowners very, very enthused about having work done. It's interesting, different people's perspectives. During the time that we were shut down, we heard from a number of customers that were actually very happy we were doing that and would get back into weatherization and having people come to their homes at some time in the future. And we had some people that contacted us and were actually very mad that we weren't out doing the job. So everybody has a different perspective. Some people today have jumped right back into it. The conversion rate has been tremendous. We've heard from our contractors under normal times, the full conversion rate for people applying, enrolling, and getting an energy audit is in the 45 to 50% range. Because of the interest in the program and the increased rebates, we are getting somewhere between an 80 and an 85% conversion. So people are signing very quickly, work is getting done quickly, and we've developed a bit of a backlog in front of our contractors. So there's obviously this financing available. It varies a little bit between utilities, but for Eversource, we have 0% financing through our company up to $2,000, and then 2% financing basically through banks and credit unions. And that basically can be financed depending upon the amount that you're borrowing. It could be up to $15,000 up to 10 years to pay that back. So that's what I have on the presentation, and I think at this point I will turn it back to Sarah, and we'll see what our next steps are here.
Great. Thank you so much, Gordon. I have a couple of questions for you already. One is just to make sure everyone really understands the what you were saying about the rebates and the changes and how long that is applicable. So let's see if I got this right, and then you clarify for me. So you said that the rebate to date has been 50% of insulation and health and safety measures and 100% of air sealing covered up to $4,000. The changes include, one, that cap is now $8,000. You can get that copay up to $8,000. And for this temporary short period of time, any jobs that are completed by November 15th, not only is the cap $8,000, but the copay is more like 90% for the installation and the health and safety. That's correct?
Okay, the rebate, not the copay.
The rebate, sorry, yes,
Yeah,
the rebate.
that's okay.
So the only other piece I would add, and you should correct me here, I think what you were saying about the fact that everyone is converting and you have a big backlog for contractors implies to me that 90% opportunity may already be more or less met by people who are already in the queue. So if I was looking to get an energy audit today and take advantage of that 90% offer, I maybe shouldn't get my hopes up.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I mean, it's possible there are some contractors, we have some of the smaller ones coming back now that may have more staff to do that. But I know that we have 2 of our contractors right now are booking work out until December, believe it or not. So that pushes it out. So I guess to follow up that, after November 15th, basically the rebate goes back to 50%, but the cap stays at 8,000. So that's
great.
It's a pretty good deal.
And that's expected to be at least that through next year, starting 2021.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, thank you. So I have a couple of questions here from folks. First question comes from NV Josh. I live in a log home. Does chinking qualify for the rebate program?
I don't think I have ever seen that. That may be a type of air sealing. I don't think I have seen that approved. We actually have done a lot of work in log cabins, but I don't believe that is an approved measure.
Okay. Next question is actually also from NV Josh. They've actually got a home-based business. So would their detached shop qualify for an installation rebate is their question.
Yeah, normally it applies to residential properties. And the way that we take a look at that is based on the meter. So if the whole building is residentially metered, then it should qualify. But that'll be a decision that has to be made by each individual utility. So if it was coming to Eversource, I would be the one looking at that and determining whether the rebates would apply to that shop or not.
And if the rebate turned out to, or if the meter turned out to be a commercial meter, you would then redirect into the commercial program?
Yes. But we really, at this time, do not have any money in our commercial program for weatherization, pretty much just looking at lighting right now.
Would that change in calendar year 21?
It could,
okay.
But I can't say for certain that it will.
So anyone who's got a business or wonders whether their home business might qualify for the NHSaves rebates, send in a query anyway. Gordon will help you get straight.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I can direct it to the right people. Yes.
Great. So we have a question from Dale about the process. So the question specifically is, what is the process? Contact NHSaves, auditor comes with recommendations, and then we would pick what we want to do. If you could just maybe repeat how you participate thing.
Yeah. Basically, you can go online, NHSaves.com, and then you can go down to Energy Audits and Weatherization. You can click on that. And that will take you to a page. And what you can do basically is put in the square footage of your home, your zip code, and then that will run you down to fuel use. So whether you heat your house based on electric use, whether you use cordwood, fuel oil, propane, we've got some with kerosene. Believe it or not, in the past, I have seen coal homes. We don't have that as an option, so I've had to convert that to another fuel. And then basically hit the button at the bottom, and then that will take you to an application form. So if you qualified for the home with an HHI or greater, you'll get an application form. If you're less than an HHI 8, you'll qualify for what's called a visual audit program, where someone from Clear Results can come to your home, take a look at your home, make some recommendations. We have thermostats available. And if for some reason the auditor determines that there's more weatherization opportunities, we would reconsider your home. Assuming you qualify for home performance, you get the application form, you can sign it, send it in electronically with copies of your fuel use history, and then that would come in to me. I get those on a daily basis, and we take a look at that just to make sure everything's in place. And then once we determine that the home qualifies, we assign it to one of our 22 BPI certified energy contractors around the state. Within 2 weeks' time, it might extend a little bit right now, but we've been saying 10 to 12 business days, the contractor will call the customer to schedule the energy audit of their home. It's a process that takes about 2.5 hours to complete. So if you have any questions, any things you want them to particularly look at, you definitely want to be at the audit and walk around. It's a great learning experience. Afterwards, they'll provide you with a detailed home energy assessment report. I talked a little bit about that earlier. You'll get all the measures, the costs of those measures, and then the applicable rebates. And then at that point, you can make a decision on what you want to complete for work in your home. So the only thing you're really committed to up front is that $100 energy audit fee.
Great. We have a follow-up question that just came in. What if the home was purchased recently and they don't have any proof of heating to submit with the application?
Okay, yeah, because this is a program that was developed by the state's electric utilities and it's overseen by the Public Utilities Commission. We've asked for 24 months fuel use history. And the reason we do that is to develop a baseline of use going forward. So you can kind of project what savings would look like a few years down the road. At the very least, we are going to need enough heating history to enroll the home in the program. Whether you have the invoices or whether you have a written letter or statement from the company that's providing the fuel, that this is the amount of gallons that were used. And the reason we have to do that is that our programs are subject to audit by the Public Utilities Commission. And if they were to come in and audit and found that we had a lot of customers getting into the program without any fuel use history, they would look at that very unfavorably.
Thank you, Gordon. Let's see. So I'm going to get to everyone's questions. Don't worry. Thank you for sending them in. Would you mind quickly repeating your advice for how someone would find the square footage, the heated square footage of their house?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people can, basically you can do it with a tape measure. I mean, if it's a pretty small, like if it's a ranch, it's pretty easy to figure it out. But the best way is to go online and get that information, which is readily available from either your town or your city or municipality. And they basically will have it in great detail what your total square footage is. And then if you have some areas that are unconditioned, like we were talking about earlier, either a garage, a breezeway, a 3-season porch, you would not include those in the conditioned square footage when you're trying to apply for the program.
And I would just add to that, because I've helped a lot of people with this. If you call up your town assessment office, your tax card will include a gross square footage and a finished square footage.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You'll notice, because it breaks it down by room for you, that the finished square footage is usually equivalent to what you actually heat in the home.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. And basically for every application that we receive, we are going to those sites and verifying that information.
Great, thank you. So I've got a question about do-it-yourselfers. Dale asks, can people do the work themselves and get reimbursed for cost of supplies?
You can do the work yourselves, but it would not qualify for rebate. We do have some people that are very handy that go through the process, get the audit results for $100 and then do the work on their own. And the reason basically that we're not supporting do-it-yourselfers with this program is it's money that has come from electric bills, and again, with an oversight, we want to make sure that the money that we're spending that's basically coming from systems benefits charge is well monitored and basically well put in. And that's why we basically have our energy contractors have to come in and apply to work in the program. They have to go through a QA process initially, and then as they go forward, they have to be QA'd. Sometimes if we have issues with contractors, they can actually be put on probation or asked to leave the program. So it's a very, very tight process, and we want to make sure that when we're using other people's money in order to help our homeowners, that everything is done professionally.
Great, thank you. So question about condos. Do condos qualify for the rebate program? We'll start with that. And then
Yes.
there's a second half of this question too.
Yeah. The short answer to that is yes. Condos do qualify. We see condos in all kinds of different shapes and forms. Could be a single condo, could be a two or attached, could be four attached. And then sometimes you have the garden style condos as well.
Great. I am now going to see if Barb Calloway is willing to speak for a second, because the other half of this question is about Liberty Utilities. You had mentioned earlier in the program that Liberty has a different amount of funding and wasn't offering the 90% short-term rebate. Would you first clarify how is Liberty Utilities rebate program different or the same as everyone else's? And then Barb can clarify what she has learned about their current funding status.
Okay. You mean the actual home performance program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's the same, but you can confirm.
It is the same. It's just the only difference is the 50% funding now as opposed to 90, what the other utilities are doing. But
So same contractors, same process to apply.
Absolutely. Yep. For each of the electric utilities in New Hampshire and then the gas utilities.
Great. So Barb, chime in because you've spoken with Liberty more recently. Anything that we need to know about what you've learned?
Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to say that with Liberty, all the funds have been used up for 2020 or promised to other people. However, the person at Liberty told me that you can go ahead and apply for rebates and get your audit and be put on a wait list for the 2021 funds. And in late fall or early December, they will be moving people from the wait list to the actual list for rebates. So we encourage people to go ahead and get their audits and start the process, and you'll be ahead of the game for the rebates next year then.
Thank you, Barb. And I would just underscore what you just said, especially since, based on what Gordon told us, even in Eversource and New Hampshire Electric Co-op territory, contractors are scheduling out right to the end of the year. So just because Liberty is technically out of funds, you may still, no matter what your utility, be looking at a 2021 install if you start right now. So there's no reason not to go and see if you qualify for the rebates and get your name on the list.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. And this work can be done any time of year.
Yes.
It's most difficult now working in attics because of the extreme heat. But basically this work, we've got contractors going into homes all season long.
One other note about DIY that I forgot to mention before I jump onto a question about windows. We did this work on my home, and what Gordon suggested, we hired someone to do an energy audit through NHSaves. And because my husband and I are handy, we had a conversation with our contractor about which pieces of the work scope we could do ourselves and which would be better to leave to him. We ended up doing a bit of air sealing ourselves, and we were still able to max out our, at that time, $4,000 rebate maximum because we took on a fairly large project, and we were able to strategically decide which pieces to let the contractor do and which to do ourselves in order to get the best bang for our buck. So that's another way that folks who are do-it-yourself savvy can approach this as a hybrid method. So we've got a couple of questions about windows, and I'll just read both of them to you, Gordon, and you can address them.
All right.
If I just installed new windows in my home, can I get a rebate? And the follow-up is, do windows qualify for replacement by any other kind of rebate program that's not NHSaves?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. The only rebates that I'm aware of for windows, doors, and siding are basically from manufacturers. The program does not provide rebates for any of those, not on windows, doors, or siding. We basically focus on air sealing and insulation. And the reason for that is it's the biggest energy saving return for the investment. Thank you.
And then we have a question from Ken. We just had weatherization work completed in February at the 50% copay. Is there a way that this work now qualifies for the 90% rebate, 10% copay, i.e. get 40% of what we paid back?
Not that I'm aware of.
That would be nice.
I think the person I work for would say absolutely not. But yeah, it would be nice. I mean, the world has changed a lot since the end of February.
Thank you. So that was the end of our questions in the list. So I will give folks another minute or two to think about what else you might want to ask us and type it in the question box. While they're doing that, Gordon, is there anything else that's coming to mind for you that you would really like folks to take away today, if nothing else?
I think generally we've actually helped homeowners tremendously over the last, we've been doing this program, I think, for over 10 years now, started back in 2008, 2009. When you looked at one of the questions that you ran about how old homes were, about 40% of the homes of the people that were answering the question were pre-World War II. So there's a lot of old homes in New Hampshire, and chances are a lot of those homes need a lot of work. I am surprised every now and again that we'll find homes that are less than 10 years old that qualify for the program. So just because your home is newer doesn't necessarily mean that your contractor paid a great amount of attention to air sealing or insulating the home. And if your home does qualify for $100, if nothing else, you could get peace of mind and find out, yep, it's good. There's very little. Every now and again we have that. But if there's opportunities and you can get someone like us through these programs to pay for part of that cost, it's definitely well worth taking advantage of.
Great. I had a question from one of our co-panelists, which didn't appear in the chat, which is that could you just speak for a minute about what low-income residents can do if they want to pursue weatherization?
Yeah, in addition, Home Performance with Energy Star is not income-based. And then we do have a low-income weatherization program, home energy assistance, that's administered through the CAP agencies in the state of New Hampshire. They actually have their own weatherization crews that go out and do the work. So they're the ones going in and doing the auditing and then performing the work in the program. The cap on that pre-COVID time was $8,000, and we would pay 100% of that. And then the cap currently at this time is $20,000, and the utilities are paying 100% of that. So it is a huge benefit to help people who are struggling economically be able to weatherize their homes, make them more durable, last longer, and then save money.
And if someone was interested in participating, what's their first step?
Call your CAP agency, because generally all of our CAP agencies have a list. So depending upon where you are on their scale of assistance could actually move you up a list.
So CAP stands for Community Action Programs. And if you don't know what your CAP agency is, you can always contact Vital Communities or even NHSaves, and they'll just redirect you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we have 5 of those in different parts of the state.
Yeah, up here it's generally Tri-County CAP or CSC anyway, but we can talk about that later.
Yep.
Couple of questions came in about contractors. So 2 related questions. One, who decides on the contractor for your energy audit? And the second was, how do I choose a contractor? And in parentheses, in a condo. So thoughts on contractor assignment and selection.
Okay. Yeah, oftentimes like Vital Communities has run programs for us over the last 3 or 4 years, and they have had a number of contractors, sometimes 3, 4, or 5 different contractors. And then during the presentations, they would have an opportunity to talk a little bit about themselves and their business. And people have had an opportunity to see that, talk to them after, and then choose their contractor. Sometimes it's the contractor who brings in our business. Oftentimes it is the customer coming to us. We have a list of the energy contractors. And I can generally tell you in your part of the state which ones are willing to go there and which ones are not. So if you're getting to the process, you can just select utility selection for the contractor. And then if you want to have more detailed conversations about that, I can provide you a list. Sometimes our homeowners like to talk to the contractors ahead of time. So I'll give them the list. They'll talk to 2 or 3 contractors, and a month or so later, they'll come back to me with a choice. So you can either leave it to us to choose, or you can get involved in that selection process. Either one is fine.
And if someone is in a condo, like this second question asker, do they have to be worried about whether the contractor who gets assigned to them will be able to help them in a condo?
No.
Great.
Yeah, they should be able to handle just about, we've seen all kinds of different properties. I think we did one in the North Country, which was a a home, which was previously a sugar shack converted into a home. So we've seen a lot of different stuff over the years.
Awesome. So something that popped up for me, and I'll make sure to share this with everybody. Last year, I think Vital Communities put together a nice little help guide for anyone that's trying to figure out how to get into this program. It really breaks down what Gordon talked us through, how you go into the calculator online, what fuels you put in, what happens if you are or are not eligible for the program. So I will make sure that everyone who is on this call gets a link to that guide so that you can use it if it's helpful to you to get involved. And I also want to mention that although the communities that helped coordinate this call were Kearsarge region, Cornish, Plainfield, and Hanover, there's actually energy committees across our entire region that are actively promoting weatherization and NHSaves all year long. Lyme is a great example. I had a note from Martha Tecca in Lyme, and she says, we're actively promoting weatherization too. And I know there's other groups as well. So that just is to reinforce my point earlier that if you're interested in this, you want local connections, either to get involved with your energy committee or to get some local help with your weatherization, please let me know. I know who's working on what across the region and can get you connected.